Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Red and Blue Crew podcast. We appreciate everybody joining us today. Our title and presenting sponsors are, of course, the Velvet Ditch and the Land Shark. Also grateful for our friends at the Hearn Law Firm and John O'Reed and the Dirt Doctor. Excited, David, to have a very special guest. He's in the Lincoln Tunnel in New York. He'll be out in just a minute. We'll be able to see him. It's Brandon Dart. We all know him, the incredible Dart family. Of course, the dad of Jaxson Dart, who's now with the New York Giants. And Brandon, I know we can't see you very well. We'll see you in a minute, but thanks very much for carving out a few minutes to talk about Jackson's time at Ole Miss and, of course, everything he's doing up in New York.
You bet. It's a pleasure to be on, and always grateful to talk to the folks back in Oxford and share our experiences and reflect on many great memories.
Brendan, I want to get this started by talking about Jaxson Dart before Ole Miss. And, this is a little bit of a family question here, but at what point growing up, and let me say this, Brandon was a great player at Utah. So at what point growing up did you figure out Jaxson was going to be a quarterback? And, when did the grooming process start? Because I know that starts with the dad. When did that start?
Well, interesting enough, in just my experience, I never thought that I would have a son play the quarterback position. I was, my experience was always, mainly on the defensive side. I played both ways in high school, but more of a running back slot and then obviously safety. And so I just figured that if I had sons, they would kind of follow in my footsteps, and that was kind of the plan initially. It was, I think, third grade is when we were able to, or Jack was able to start playing tackle football after a couple of years of flag, and the coach that he was assigned to ended up getting a promotion and wasn't going to be able to coach, and so he asked myself and a couple of the fathers if they'd be able to coach the team, and obviously there wasn't really many other options. It wasn't even my goal to coach Jaxson that young either, but as it was just simple, the first few days we're just trying to figure out what we have as far as talent goes, and it was really easy to see that there was only going to be one kid that was going to be able to run the show, and I think it just Jaxson innately just had a good grasp on just simple concepts of football, and really he was the only kid that could take a snap, throw the ball, and once that was established, it was kind of like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna try to do this the right way and put him in a position where he could learn, the position, in and out, and didn't really have the expectation, even at that time, that it was going to turn into where we are now. But I just figured we'd have some fun with it, and that's kind of where it all got started.
Man, you guys have had some fun. Look, his college stardom aside, he is the reigning NFL Rookie of the Month. I mean, do you have to pinch yourself? About the success he's having. And not only that, reigning NFL Rookie of the Month, the fact he's starting for the New York Giants as a rookie is absolutely, well, I would say incredible, but it's just what you would expect from Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, all that stuff. Even the whole process has been a little bit hard to kind of comprehend. You just kind of live in the moment, and a lot of the times we look at each other, or my wife Kara and I, and just think like, holy cow, like every Sunday, we're at another iconic stadium, and really just wishing that Jaxson plays well and then walks off the field. But I think in other ways, we've always known that whatever somebody's opinion of Jaxson is, initially they're always going to be wrong. So even in the draft process, when he came out and he was going to be a late second round or an early third round, we always knew from the get go. And I think even everybody at Old, Kiff and Coach Weiss and Coach Judge, like they all knew. It's like once somebody gets their eyes on him and spends time with him, it's always the trajectory is always going to be steep. And even when he's at camp and whatnot, he's fearless in a way that he is able to judge, his talent level versus the others. And right away, he said, Dad, like, I'm going to be able to play a lot earlier than people expect me to play. And so I think he's much more prepared than people, gave him credit for. And I think a lot of that goes to, Coach Kiff, Coach Weiss, and Coach Judge. Like those guys prepared him in a way that I don't think people really truly understand the complexities of what they, quote unquote, say Kiffin's offense or whatever they want to throw out there. Um, they put a lot on his plate, and I think they put a lot on quarterbacks just in general. And so, he's ready for the pressure, but at the same time, as a father, you're just, when you see that, offensive rookie of the month, his first month, starting, it's pretty surreal. And obviously we're extremely, extremely proud of him. But at the same time, when that came out, it's a quick congratulatory, but it's, hey, this is, there's a lot more ahead. Your best days are ahead. And the focus of week in and week out mentality and his of just whatever he can do to win games, like he's going to do his part and more to win games. So he doesn't really care too much about that. He just wants to wants to win, which makes everybody's life a lot easier.
Right on. Brad, I'm going to throw it to you.
Brandon, I'd love to go back to when Jaxson made the decision to transfer from Southern Cal. And what was the thought process of choosing Ole Miss? And what were your thoughts whenever you finally were able to see the campus and make your decision, or make Jaxson make his decision to come to Ole Miss?
That honestly was a very interesting time. It was the first year of the portal. Nobody kind of knew how that was going to work. Jaxson was very, very late getting in just because of the complexities and not wanting to leave USC. But once it happened, I was actually in the air to Sonora, Mexico on a hunting trip when he submitted his name, and within the minute it dropped, my phone was buzzing phone calls from coaches, and it was quite the, I don't know, it was just, we weren't really truly prepared. And so being late, there was only only a few schools that really had interest in going to, and most of those were in the SEC, and at the time, maybe one or two in the Pac-12. But Ole Miss was always one of those schools that he was interested in, just with the connection of Kiff to Southern California, USC, and then obviously Matt Corral, him coming from California himself, and just, I think, the stuff that we would see on TV. So when it happened, I mean, there were a lot of phone calls between myself, him, his mother, just trying to narrow down, like, hey, where do we actually want to go visit? And once we kind of put a few things together, I think I watched it was either the SEC championship or the national championship in a like some Mexican hotel. And once we kind of set those trips up, I wasn't even planning on going to Oxford. It was just going to be Kara and Jaxson, because I was going to be like dead, like right in the middle of the hunt. But I told her, I'm like, hey, when you get there, like, call me. I'll get to a mountaintop and get as much service as I can so that we can have a phone call. And so I did it. I think the day that they landed, and she's like, Brandon, like, you got to get here. And she just said they'd only been there for a few hours, but she just said this place is, I think it's something special and far different than what she had imagined. And so I think at 2 a.m. in the morning, I got picked up by a by a cowboy, a Mexican cowboy, and I had like a 6 hour drive um, uh, to Arizona to Tucson to catch a flight like the next morning, and was able to get in that night, and all I had was my hunting clothes and a backpack, and and
That fit in good in Mississippi,
yeah,
Brandon.
yeah, oh yeah,
Right on.
I fit right in, so it was, I think just, kind of being there, it snowed that night, and that was, I guess, the first time it had snowed in a little bit, and I think there was some connection, like JDB, he was had recruited Jaxson at USC, and was, the tight end and passing game coordinator. So there was a good connection there. We'd had a relationship already built from the time before, and I think just being, like seeing the way Oxford just kind of gravitates and surrounds their entire culture with the Rebels and sport, and especially football. It just, I think Jaxson could feel the energy. Obviously, they had a great year that year going to the Sugar Bowl. Kiffin is very, very, very good at recruiting when he wants somebody, and I think that in due time, I think Jaxson just felt like he needed to make, a big move in his life, not only from a football standpoint, but just as a person, and kind of make that step to, to be on his own, even though he's only, I think at the time he's like 18 years old. So, I just, I felt like with Coach Weiss at the time, and I think they had a good plan. Obviously, there was going to be a quarterback competition, but
Mhm.
we felt like, there could be some really special things that happened, and all of that just would land on Jackson's shoulders. But we all have faith that in competitive environments, like he's deeply passionate about winning jobs and competing, and knew that in due time
And
things would work out.
David, let me follow up real quick. Brandon,
Mhm.
Jaxson and Lane Kiffin forged an incredible friendship. I think player coach, and I think if you'd ask either one of them, they probably learned a lot from each other. Lane was growing as a head coach, and Jaxson was growing as a starting quarterback. And I'm sure that friendship continues to this day. I know Lane even told us that he went down to New Orleans to watch Jaxson and the Giants play the Saints earlier this year. Um, your overall thoughts on Lane Kiffin throughout Jackson's tenure at Oxford, their relationship, and your relationship, your family's relationship with Lane Kiffin?
Well, I think first and foremost, he's a great mentor for Jaxson. That relationship, like you said, it was built, from kind of bottom up. He didn't make things easy for Jaxson at first, and I think he kind of wanted to see what he was all about. And so I think it took at least probably up to 18 months to really forge, the relationship to where it is today. But I think over time, Kiffin does a really good job of making sure that, uh, you know, things are earned and maybe over earned. And I think Jaxson, on the other hand, had to learn patience, had to learn how to navigate, creating trust between a coach that has had a lot of success, but at the same time, I think Kiffin also uh, learned from Jax uh, the special relationships that can be built, and I think between the two of them, like, Jackson's going to pour his heart and soul into everything that he does, and he knew that creating that relationship with Kiffin was going to be essential to that part, and I think once Kiffin kind of understood him totally as a person inside and out,
that there was a not only just a player coach relationship, but a deep friendship that was created. And as it is today, I mean, as we were texting on our Kiffin Dart family text thread, because there was I think Boomer Esiason, it said something in the media today that, maybe they should throw out a potential, coaching applicant to Kiffin, and he kind of just sent it over with us like a smirk and just said it's too cold in New York for me. But it's just kind of funny. But we have our weekly interactions with him and his family, and it's I think Jaxson holds high regard. Kiffin is one of his most trusted allies, and I think he uses him for advice in a lot of different ways. And so there's constant communication between them, even today. And there's a lot of that, between our families. So I don't think we could have asked for, a more special coach, relationship between our family and our son. So we're very, very grateful for Coach Kiff.
Brandon, I know Jaxson and Eli Manning are close. We talked about that the other day. How much ribbon do you get, or is it even noticed that Ole Miss has been a great producer of New York Giants quarterbacks from way back to when Charlie Connerly was playing to Eli Manning, now Jaxson Dart? I mean, what's that like? Are people talking about that?
Well, I mean, there's always stuff brought up. Like there was a thing on TV just the other day where it was something about, I can't remember, like Jaxson. Oh, it was most games in a season with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, and on the list was Chuck Connerly, and Jaxson had surpassed everybody to this point, but there's still, they're between like Mr. Mara and whatnot, they still, they still hold that Ole Miss. And that's kind of when I met him the day after the draft. And, he just said, we all know what happens when Ole Miss quarterbacks, become Giant quarterbacks. And those are great things. And that's what we expect. So I think it is unique. It is special. And I think those that are in the know understand that.
Brandon, I think in any line of work, whether it be sports or insert your career here, there are going to be ups and downs. And I think we all learn from when we get knocked down to get back up. And Jaxson knows that better than anybody while he was at Ole Miss, from the mountaintop of beating top-ranked Georgia to the low point of losing to Kentucky. I would argue that the LSU game was, just from me watching, one of the low points of the career of Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss. And I would like to ask, the picture that I took that went kind of famous online was when we asked Jaxson during the end of the game, and he handled himself professionally, but you could tell that he was really beaten down. How much do you think he learned from that, and how much do you think that is going to help him, or maybe already has, as a quarterback of the Giants? When kind of things get bad, you think about the things that you kind of learned from at Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think that was everything that happened at Ole Miss and the SEC and the pressures of winning and wanting to obviously make the playoffs. Like, those pressures aren't felt in very many other places, and Jaxson takes a lot of weight on his shoulder, and I think especially with that team last year of his involvement from the recruiting of the portal and different things of that nature. Like, he had the weight of the program on his shoulders. He knew that. In that LSU game, I have very vivid memories, and I will always have memories of that loss where there was just so many opportunities that that we kind of just kept giving away, and then eventually we obviously lose that game, and he knew the gravity of that loss, and I think that kind of in a sense, like, overcoming that to beat Georgia, a few weeks later and whatnot, and kind of the ups and downs of just the SEC and anybody winning on any particular Saturday, I think, in the NFL, there's a lot of games that are one score games. And the pressures to do that, I think that for his growth and preparation, those were essential parts of that, and him kind of understanding on how to handle the pressures and really releasing some of that, because you can't put everything on him, but he likes, those are situations that he's thrived in, like the previous year when they won a lot of games on last minute drives, and then losing, those the following year in horrible ways. And so I think that as a quarterback, you have to experience that one way or the other. And I think that those experiences have done him very, very well thus far.
And David, let me follow up real quick. By the way, Brandon, you made a great point. And Lane talks about that a lot. 2 years ago, 4-0 in one score games. The following year, 0-3 in one score games, I should say. So in this year, they've kind of reversed it and done really well in one score games. I'm curious, Brandon, your thoughts when every time a quarterback comes along, depending on whatever school or team that he plays on, there's always that one moment to where the fan base goes, that's my quarterback. And I want to take you back to a couple of years ago whenever I think that moment happened for a lot of Ole Miss fans, and it was when Ole Miss was on the road against Georgia Tech. And that's when Jaxson lowered his shoulder and absolutely demolished a cornerback for Georgia Tech. And I will tell you, I was in the press box, and it was a collective moan throughout the press box. Now, we would learn that Lane would kind of make a joke about that and tell Jaxson to slide, and then sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. But that's kind of a lot of moments that Jaxson kind of solidified himself as being the Ole Miss quarterback, and he's so beloved at the university and will forever be known as one of the best to ever wear the uniform. I'm just curious as to when you and your family's thought, okay, this is kind of settling in. I think he's the guy for Ole Miss.
I mean, obviously that was a part of that competition. That moment was, I think, kind of crucial for him and the team, for him just to kind of show, what he was about from, I think, just a total football player standpoint. And I think that really solidified, I think, his role at that time. And then I think you kind of move down into, some of his other, big games and big moments. And I think that, the following season, I mean, obviously you're going to have, well, actually, I think that season as well, it was right before their bye week at Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. I was at the stadium, and it was it was like a 3-point game, third down and something, and we're going to the end zone, and they run a boot play that he throws to Kelly in a high pressure situation where he's got guys in his face, and that kind of solidified the win. And I think being in that environment with 100,000+ people, and it was as loud as you could ever imagine, and kind of just throwing a dot of a ball, was those are big time wins. And then you just kind of move on to the next season, whether we're the Texas A&M game at home. Obviously, I think one of the best games I've ever been a part of was that LSU game at home when they came back, and that was a really turning point of that season after they had lost to Alabama on the road. And obviously that spun them into the Peach Bowl victory, which was a big victory for that season, and winning that 11th game. And I think those types of things, we kind of knew that, hey, Jackson's got a chance, and Jackson's kind of put his flag on the ground as far as Ole Miss history. And I think he, when it's all said and done, when people start to reflect on him and what he was able to accomplish, there'll be a lot of that, as far as that chatter goes. But, we've had just so many great experiences and wonderful and stressful moments there that we'll never forget.
By the way, that home game against LSU, Jaxson threw for 389 back in the 23 season. In that A&M game, 387. And, of course, the bowl game, 379, 3 humongous gains for Jaxson Dart in a very fun season. That 23 season was a lot of fun. The Rebels obviously falling on the road against Georgia, but that was the infamous Lane Kiffin press conference, and we would know how things would turn at that point. But, yeah, some great games for Jaxson back in that 23 season and, of course, the 24 season as well.
Brandon, thank you for joining us today. And, man, we just can't I'd hug your neck if I were in New York City, where obviously it's dark, daylight savings time.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets dark here. I appreciate it, and all the love to Ole Miss and you guys, and we definitely always look forward to coming back.
And Brandon, before we let you go, Brandon, real quick, just your thoughts about the Ole Miss fans. I know I've had some great conversations with your family over the years on road trips, but I know just from the outside looking in, looks like you guys really enjoyed your time in Oxford, and just give your kind of overall thoughts on the Ole Miss fan base.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can't thank them enough, and I think we know it was such a special part of Jackson's life. I mean, he loves and adores them, and I mean, to the point where he purchased a home there. He has a very special neighborhood with lots of kids, and they would do, I mean, every game they're putting up, I mean, I don't even know, 50 signs and decorating his garage door and leaving all sorts of fun things for him, and I think just more than that was the fan base in general. There was just a lot of love. They treat their Rebels very, very well, and I think they went over and above on the relationship they developed with Jaxson, and I think that will never ever leave his memories. And as far as we're concerned, we have dear friends there. We still have lots of connections with people in the community, and anytime we can get back to visit, we look forward to that, and I can't thank him enough, really. I mean, it was a blessing beyond what we could ever imagined, and we're more than grateful, and happy to call Oxford our second home.
Brandon, be sure to tell Jaxson we said hello. We love him. We're pulling for him. All from right here in Oxford. Everybody is.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate that, and we feel the love. And we met so many people in New Orleans. Half that stadium was Ole Miss fans, so we love them and can't wait to see them.
Well, Brandon, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us. And once again, pass along to Jaxson how proud we are of him. And I know the Ole Miss fans are incredibly proud of all of you. And thank you and your family for being not only great parents, but great fans of the Rebels. And thanks very much for joining us.